Taurus, welcome to your monthly horoscope for March 2026. I'm Adeana. I'm an intuitive astrologer. In these monthly horoscopes, I break the horoscopes down by week and select a chart for each week to give you a bit of a visual. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you align with my energy and enjoy my content. Let's get right into it. All right. So the first week of March, Taurus, we have on the 2nd of March, Mars is entering Pisces. And so we've got all this energy up here in your 11th house of friendships, social groups, online connections. Mars is going to be entering that 11th house of friends. So there could be, conflict with friends or a lot of action that you're taking with friends, maybe moving forward with a social group or social circle. Maybe you have a project that you're doing with friends. I would be careful with Mars, though, in that 11th house of, yeah, just conflict with friends to just be a bit mindful. On the 3rd, we have the total lunar eclipse in Virgo at 12 degrees, which is in your 5th house of children and creativity and passion, romance, hobbies, interests. Now, I do have a separate forecast going into this lunar eclipse in Virgo, but what have you been navigating over the last year when it has to do with your children, when it has to do with creative projects, when it has to do with what you do that lights you up? And this can be many forms. It doesn't necessarily just have to be creativity like crafts or painting or, whatever the case is. It's whatever lights you up, working on cars, gambling. It's literally whatever you find joy in is in that 5th house. And so that area of life is being lit up by this lunar eclipse. And because of that south node, there is something you're moving away from in this area of life. The south node represents our karmic comfort zones. So when we have eclipses here, there's more shakeup in this area of life. There's another milestone to the story that is playing out with the whole nodal journey in this area of life. And so since the nodes have been in Virgo and Pisces since January 2025, there's more to that story coming in. So what have you been navigating the last year? That's going to give you an idea to what you're going to be what the shakeup's going to be, what you're going to be moving away from, or what's going to be showing up in your world. Now, on the 5th, we have the sun forming a trine to Jupiter. So the sun is going to be up here in Pisces in your 11th house, forming a trine to Jupiter. I love this. If you do anything around self expression, so podcasting, blogging, anything around speaking, reading, writing, and you put it out online, this is a great electional chart for that. I highly recommend, on the 5th, upload it, put it out there because you've got Jupiter, this planet, which is exalted. Yes, Jupiter is retrograde, but still exalted in Cancer, forming a trine to the sun, lighting up this 11th house of social media, social groups, the collective. And so, if this is something you do for work, this is a great day to upload, to launch anything around blogs, podcasts, anything like that, social media content. On the 6th, we've got Venus entering Aries. So you have Aries in your 12th house of things, people, places that are hidden, hospitals, asylums, retreat centers, spirituality, karma. This is the house of endings. So when we have, this is also the house of the subconscious, and this house tends to suppress energy. So when we have planets transiting that 12th house, sometimes we start to feel energetically depleted because Venus is your chart ruler. This is where you may start to pull away from the world. You start to do a little bit more behind the scenes. Maybe you're gathering your thoughts. Maybe you're focusing more on your creative projects. You're doing a lot more behind the scenes, not necessarily out in the world or out in the open. You're regrouping. Also on the 7th, we've got Venus forming a conjunction to Neptune, and we have the Mercury cazimi. And so this could, honestly, the entire month of March, journal your dreams. You could have really crazy dreams this month, not just because it's eclipse season, but because you've got so much energy here in the 12th house. So I would definitely pay attention to your dreams, pay attention to your intuitive downloads, especially too when we've got that Venus conjunct Neptune. But because Neptune is that planet also of illusion, delusion, confusion, seeing things with rose-colored glasses. Plus, Venus is already in that 12th house, which can kind of bring that energy. Just be careful with anything you're trying to do at this time, that you're seeing things clearly. You're paying attention to the dotted lines. Because also don't forget that as we come into the month, Mercury is retrograde as well in that 11th house, too, which also. Um, Actually, yeah, because I had mentioned I completely forgot. So all of the planets that are orange are retrograde, also, just to let you know. But on the 5th, when I had mentioned that sun trine, I completely forgot about the Mercury retrograde. Only upload if you are natally Mercury retrograde. Okay. I was not even thinking of the Mercury retrograde here in the 11th. So yeah, if you do podcasting, blogging, uploading may not be the greatest unless you have natal Mercury retrograde. Actually, even then, I don't know if I would because it's in that 11th house. So yeah, with you know what this could be though, which I love that sun trying to Jupiter that first week because there's so much retrograde energy and then you've got all the 12th house energy. I honestly feel like this is a time period for you, Taurus, to really focus on your inner world, developing your intuition, developing this strong intuitive knowing. Pay attention to your gut as well, especially when we've got that Venus conjunction to Neptune on the 6th. Like for the first week of March, this is a time period to I think you're going to receive a lot of insight, a lot of internal clarity, but not necessarily to implement anything or move forward with anything, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I take back, don't upload anything. Just focus more on your inner world with all the retrograde and 12th house energy. And then also too, when we have on the 7th, the same day we have Venus forming a conjunction to Neptune, we also have the Mercury cazimi. So there's definitely an epiphany on this day. This is the 7th of March. So definitely pay attention on the 7th of March. What's going on in your world? There could be, if you've also been navigating something where like there's a lot of confusion, something can really come to light here with that Kazemi. This is usually when we have aha moments, epiphanies, powerful intuitive downloads. Pay attention to your thoughts, write everything down, journal. Venus also rules your 6th house of work, health, and daily routine. So there might also be something with your health. I think that this is where you're going to start to feel a little bit energetically depleted just because of that 12th house energy and the Neptune. So if you are feeling like there's a lack of energy, I honestly suggest just taking some time to yourself, meditate, focus on your inner world and intuition because this energy is great for that. There's not too much support towards like outward movement. You know what I mean? With the like implementing anything, launching anything, like anything along those lines. This is a great time to just focus inward. Then on the 8th, we're going to have Venus forming a conjunction to Saturn. And so, because Venus is your chart ruler, also rules your 6th house of work, health, and daily routine, this could again be a stop, a block, a hold to something. Saturn brings limitations, delays, so again, it could just add to that energy of like lack of energy, focusing kind of within. This could be a day too where you're just extra tired with the Saturn in the 12th house and Venus kind of in the 12th house too, forming the conjunction of Saturn. So yeah, just that whole first week of March, there you may start to feel like you are starting to slow down a little bit, but don't worry, it will pass. It's not going to stay this way. And then we get to the second week. And once we get to the 9th, we have Mercury retrograde forming a trine to Jupiter retrograde. So we first had this trine on February 16th when Mercury was direct, but Mercury was in pre-shadow. So if you think back, what showed up around February 16th, especially around friends, around maybe money finances, or even children and creative projects, that could give you an idea of what can be showing up again with that Mercury retrograde trine to Jupiter. And also on Jupiter, or not Jupiter, on the 10th, Jupiter's going to station direct. So we're finally going to start to feel that Jupiter expansion, benefic energy again. Jupiter's been at a standstill. And when Jupiter is getting ready to station for like a few weeks before, a few weeks after, this is where we start to feel like all hope is gone. Like there's no light at the end of the tunnel because that is what Jupiter brings us. Jupiter is that planet of belief and optimism, and it's hard to feel optimistic about situations, especially if you're going through something really negative or something really challenging when Jupiter is stationed, because there's no movement from Jupiter. We're not getting no energy from Jupiter. And so it's going to be nice on March 10th when we have Jupiter stationed direct. We're going to start to feel that forward movement again. Now, also on the 10th, we have Venus forming a sextile to Pluto. So this could be like really powerful transformation, but whatever's been showing up for you, whatever you've been navigating behind the scenes, whatever has shown up until this point, this is just where there could be some really um, good opportunity to start something new or something, just something kind of surfacing here. Um, that could be beneficial. So definitely pay attention, yeah, on the 10th, what's showing up. Then on the 13th, Mars is going to form a conjunction to the North Node. And this is where we can feel this powerful like fire under us to move forward with something. Now, this is in your 11th house of friendships, social groups, online connections. So you may want to take action with something, but Mercury's retrograde still. I'm pretty close to that North Node. So, I don't recommend moving forward with anything, but we're definitely going to feel this powerful urge to move forward with something. And then on the 15th, we've got Mercury retrograde forming a conjunction to Mars at 10 degrees. And so Mercury's retrograde. I mean, this can be conflict with a friend, conflict within social groups, social circles. Definitely be careful with friendships at this time and online connections, online disputes. Just be really careful because of the Mercury retrograde. It's due to a misunderstanding, lack of clarity. Um, yeah, just maybe somebody taking what you say the wrong way. You take something, what somebody else says the wrong way. It's very much this energy of confusion and lack of clarity and misunderstandings. Then once we get to week 3, this chart is for March 18th. So on the 17th, we've got Mercury retrograde forming a conjunction to the North Node. Now, just a few days after this, Mercury is going to station direct. So when Mercury forms a conjunction to the North Node on the 17th, we want to pay attention to important conversations, intuitive downloads. Remember, it's Mercury retrograde. This very much is going to be just things kind of showing up. You know how when you're in the car and you're driving and you just get these epiphanies or these thoughts that kind of stand out? This is one of those days. So definitely journal, write down anything that's coming to you because it can mean something. It might seem insignificant in the moment, but down the road, it could make sense as to why it's kind of, shown up. On the 18th, we've got the new moon in Pisces at 28 degrees. And where this is not going to be an eclipse, it's still going to be quite powerful. So, what have you been navigating the last year around your friendships, around your social circles? What new has shown up here? There's going to be, again, something new. This area is being highlighted, right? This is a new moon. This is a time to set new seeds, new intentions. And again, because yes, it's not an eclipse, but the North Node is here, it still has to do with the story that's played out since the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, especially around your social circles and your friendships. Now, also on the 18th, we have Venus forming a square to Jupiter. And so, because Venus is your chart ruler, Venus is going to be in Aries here. Um, I feel like for you, like I feel like for Taurus, because Venus doesn't like to be in Aries, and plus Venus is in the 12th house. So this is already a Venus that feels kind of very depleted, not a lot of energy, not a lot of clarity. Just be careful that this is just a day you could feel really tired, honestly, because Jupiter expands everything, right? And it's a square. And so this is very much bringing too much of what you don't want, too much of too much of a good thing, too much of a bad thing. You know what I mean? It's like, um, it's just, yeah, it's a day where maybe you just lack of energy. I would say Jupiter's in that third house. I mean, this is your mind, this is your self-expression. Um, and then Venus rules your sixth. I would say, yeah, this could just be a day where you're just feeling a little bit overwhelmed, just more tired than usual. Things just aren't going the right way. It's like if things aren't working out. It's honestly just one of those days, this day. And that's the 18th, the same time as the new moon. Now, also that new moon's going to be sextile Uranus. So that new moon in Pisces is actually too bringing in these opportunities for some interesting breakthroughs too. There could be whatever you have been navigating in this area of life, there could be potential breakthroughs developed because of something that has either broken or stopped or, whatever the case is. So yeah, keep that in mind too, because It's also interesting. And then on the 20th, we've got the sun entering Aries. And so the sun, there's going to be more energy shifting into that 12th house. And we have Mercury stationing direct at 8 degrees right on top of that north node. So the sun moving into the 12th house, again, it's bringing more energy to that 12th house where the energy does become more suppressed. However, your dreams are going to be off the chart. Start journaling. This is the time to just start doing a lot of inner work. Focus on your spiritual practice, meditating. Um, because that's kind of the energy that you're in. And I find when we have like the sun or Mars or a chart ruler transiting the 12th house, this is where we just need like an extra push to get moving. It's like that energy becomes suppressed. So we just need that extra nudge or that extra push to get going. But because it's like a temporary transit, I have so much natal energy in the 12th. I'm just so used to navigating it because it's like daily life. It's like I got to push myself to do things. And once I do, I'm good to go. But this is a temporary transit. And so it's going to pass. Focus on your inner work, do things behind the scenes, focus on, you developing your intuition and journaling and your spiritual and creative ventures. And then on the 21st, we've got Mars forming a trine to Jupiter. So Mars is going to be up here in your 11th, forming a trine to Jupiter. And also, did I mention? Yeah, I think I mentioned on the 10th that Jupiter is stationing direct. Yes, I did. I talked about that. So on the 21st, yeah, Mars is going to form a trine to Jupiter. Again, this is bringing in. This is a water trine, right? So Mars is our motivation, willpower, drive, also conflict, anger, aggression, irritability. It's in that 11th house of friendships. And it's forming a trine to Jupiter. And your third house is, yes, self-expression and anything associated with reading, speaking, writing, but also your third house is your community, your neighbors, your neighborhood, local travel. So there could be some really positive developments here. There can also be, again, um, honestly, I think this is a positive energy, Taurus. I don't really think there's going to be anything negative here. Like, I don't think there's going to be anything really. I think that this could be something really beautiful, really positive. I think Mars ruling that 12th house and having all that energy in the 12th house. I think for you, there could be a lot of internal breakthroughs. Again, this is a day, epiphanies, intuition, like what's showing up in your world, especially too with like spiritual groups or like groups or social circles you're connected to. This could be like a really nice day. And then on the 22nd, the sun's going to form a conjunction to Neptune. And so this is where, Neptune makes things cloudy, confusing. Neptune's that planet of mysticism, delusion, uh, not isolation. The 12th house is isolation. I'm just trying to think of a mix because it's Neptune, and Neptune actually has a natural association to the 12th house. But when we have the sun forming conjunction, the sun being our vitality, our life force energy in the 12th house, already a little bit suppressed, right? With Neptune, again, this could be a day where you're just extra tired. You're just extra tired, or the sun also rules your fourth house of home and family, property, real estate. There might also be something maybe around your home and family you're navigating with the conjunction to Neptune, that something maybe happens, you're not seeing something clearly, maybe something goes on with the water. Yeah, something with your water could be a thing because Neptune rules water. But other than that, like sewage tanks, like, stuff like that. And again, that's not going to be for all of you. Like, it's just possibilities, right? But for the majority of you, this again could just be a day where you're just extra tired. But it could also be a day where if you do focus on, meditation and spiritual practice, Neptune's very spiritual. Neptune is that planet of, spirituality and intuition. And so it would be an amazing day to tap into your intuition and do some intuitive work. And then we get to week 4. And on the 25th, we've got the sun forming a conjunction to Saturn and sextiling Pluto. So the sun will form a conjunction to Saturn here at 5 degrees and then sextile Pluto. So this could be, again, if there is something going on with your house, because the moon's here too, but this is, because this chart's for the 28th. So the moon's probably, I would say, in Cancer at that point. So the sun forming a conjunction to Saturn, sextile Pluto. It could have to do with home, family, property, real estate. It's always a possibility because the sun rules your fourth house. But also this could just be, again, it's the 12th house and the sun. It's your life force energy, vitality. Saturn brings limitation, challenge, hardship, restriction. Or actually too, maybe that's when you decide to develop a really solid spiritual practice. And also too, for some of you, the 12th house rules like hospitals, asylums, retreat centers. And for those of you who maybe work in a hospital or, prisons, like all of the places that you kind of go that are like behind the scenes, you know what I mean? That's all represented in the 12th house. So for some of you too, if you work in hospitals or you work at, you know, prisons or something along those lines, this can also have something to do with that as well. For some of you, maybe if you work in a prison, something's going on with the prison or the hospital. Like, always take that into consideration as well. It's hard to be so general when you don't see somebody's chart in front of you. It's just you give a very basic, like, general read. I could say, okay, I know this is happening in this area of life, but I can't exactly tell you what. But yeah, always take that into the consideration. Okay, Taurus, when we're talking about Aries energy, because that is also represented in the 12th house. So when the sun forms a conjunction to Saturn, again, you could feel extra tired because this is like our life force energy and vitality being restricted, being limited a little bit. But with the sextile to Pluto, though, there is possibility for either exposure or transformation. That's what Pluto does. So yeah, keep that in mind. On the 28th, Saturn is then going to sextile Pluto, which I kind of already went over. So yeah, 25th to 28th, there's the Sun sextile to Pluto and then Saturn sextile to Pluto. And then on the 30th, Venus is going to enter Taurus. This is once we reach the end of the month, Taurus, this is when you start to gain your momentum and vitality back. Venus, your chart ruler, is going to enter your first house on the 30th. And so coming into April next month, you're finally going to start to feel yourself again. All right. Like I said, this energy is just temporary and we all have to navigate it, 1 month out of the year with certain energy going through our 12th house, unless you're born like me with, 12th house energy. But Venus going in the first house, this is where you focus more on your appearance. Maybe you're just wanting to change your appearance in some way. Focus more on your look. It's that first house of you, your character, personality, physical body, appearance, personality, like your perception of the world, how you want others to perceive you. That first house literally represents the mask that you wear out in the world. How do you want people to look at you? That is all represented in that first house. So Venus entering the first house, it's also spring. Maybe you're deciding to work out more. Venus is also the ruler of your sixth house of health and nutrition and your workout routines. And so once we get to the end of the month, things become a lot lighter. All right, Taurus. So let me know in the comments below if you have any questions or want to tell me how you're navigating this energy. Because again, this Neptune, Saturn, and Aries, this is a very new energy. We've never experienced Neptune and Aries. So I am very curious, just for my own research purposes, how this is showing up for everybody. All we have to go by is on the past. We look to the past to predict the future. So I've looked at past events with Neptune and Aries and even Neptune, Saturn, and Aries, which I have a forecast on my channel if you want to check that out. But yeah, I would love to hear your own personal experiences. So, Taurus, if you enjoyed my horoscope and you want to see more content and you align with my energy, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will connect with you in the next one.